We want to look at how to work out the lowest common multiple or the least common multiple of two fairly big numbers, so a 2-digit number and a 3-digit number. But before we do that, we're going to look at a really simple example just to show you that the method works for any numbers. So we're going to find the lowest common multiple of 6 and 8. And in this method, we're going to look at factors. So we're going to write down a table and write the numbers at the top of that table. So we want to think about what number or what numbers divide into those two numbers. In fact, there's only one number that goes in, isn't there? So 2 is the only number that goes in there. And so we're dividing 2 into 6 and getting 3, and 2 into 8 goes 4. And the lowest common multiple is simply the product of all the numbers 2, 3 and 4. So the number on the left hand side and the two numbers at the bottom of this table. Now we know we've completed this example in the sense that we cannot divide any number into 3 and 4 other than 1. So we know that the answer is simply 2 times 3 times 4. So that's 6 times 4 is 24. And we can easily check that in this case with such small numbers, because we could write down the multiples of 6. So simply multiply 6 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on if necessary. So 6 and then 12, 18, and then we get to 24. And similarly the multiples of 8. So 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 is 24. So we can see that the least common multiple of 6 and 8 is indeed 24. So this is a really easy example where you can really just write down the answer without having to write out any table. So what we want to do next is look at an example where the numbers are a bit bigger. So we're going to look at finding the lowest common multiple of 81 and 216. So as before, we write the numbers down at the top of our table, and then on the left hand side we're going to divide in numbers that go into both of these two numbers until we get to numbers in the table where the numbers don't have a common factor. So looking at 81 and 216, we can see they're not even. You could maybe see that 3 goes in, or in fact 9 will go in, wouldn't it? Because 9 goes into 81. We know 9 9s are 81, but 9 also goes into 216 because 2 plus 1 plus 6 adds up to 9. So in this particular method, we don't need to worry about what kind of number we're dividing in. There are some methods where you particularly want to look at prime numbers, but that isn't so in this method. So if we see that 9 goes in, we can just divide 9 in. So 9 into 81 goes 9 times. 9 into 216, well, 9 into 21 is 2. And that has a remainder of 3. So 9 into 36 goes 4. So we've got 9 and 24. And unlike the last example, we're not stopping here because 9 and 24 have a common factor. And we can now see that that common factor is 3. So we now divide 3 into those two numbers, into the 9 and the 24. So 3 into 9 goes 3. And 3 into 24 goes 8. And now we have arrived at the stage where we have done the hard work, because 3 and 8 at the bottom of that table don't have anything in common. And now to write down the lowest common multiple, what we want to do is multiply together the numbers we've been dividing by, so that's these numbers here, and the numbers that are left that we haven't divided by. So all these numbers multiplied together give us the lowest common multiple. So the lowest common multiple is given by 9 times 3 times 3 times 8. So that multiplies to, well, 9 times 3 times 3 is 81. 81 times 8, that will be 648, won't it? So that one is harder to work out in your head. If you want to check the answer, what you could do is just look at the bigger number, the 216, and write down its factors. So the factors, I don't mean factors, do I? We want to check the multiples of 216. So the multiples of 216 are 216, and then when we double it we get 432, multiply 216 by 3 and we get 648, and then we can see that 648 is a multiple of 216, and we want to look back at the 216 and 432 and see that those are not multiples of 81, but the 648 is a multiple of 81. So it does indeed look as if we have got the correct answer here. 648 is the answer. Another way of thinking about this is to, if you've already found the highest common factor, which if you remember from a previous video, we get from multiplying the numbers in the left-hand side of the table, so 9 times 3. So the highest common factor of 81 and 216 is 27, and then we just multiply the 27 by 3 and 8. So our alternative method would have been to multiply 27 by 3 and 8. So all the numbers in that red L give us the lowest common multiple.